The Nick Zelaya Show. Here's your host, Nick Zelaya.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to episode 5 of the Nick Zelaya Show, a special March Madness preview. I'm your host, Nick Zelaya, joined by my entire starting 5. We've got Spencer Pierce, we've got Biz, we've got Ben Paglia, and we have Jack Tobin. So let's get right into it, guys, starting with when the bracket was revealed on Sunday. What were your initial thoughts, Spencer? I want to start with you when the bracket was revealed this past Sunday.
Well, Nick, as a Kansas Jayhawks fan myself, I'm used to getting overpowered in the bracket. But I got to say, this West bracket is one of the most stacked brackets that I've ever seen. I mean, you have Iowa as a 2 seed. Many thought they were going to be a 1 seed this year. But here's something I was looking at. I think this is the worst group of 2 seeds that I've ever seen in my entire 20 years on this planet. You have Iowa. Like I said, they were supposed to be a 1 seed. I'm frankly not impressed with Alabama or Houston. I don't think Houston passes the eye test. They haven't really played anyone, and their losses are pretty bad, frankly. And then you have Ohio State, who has good losses, but they're also coming in with they have good wins, but they're also coming in with 9 losses. Granted, the Big Ten is one of the best conferences in college basketball, but 21-9 for a 2 seed, you don't see that too often.
Ben, I want to get you in this. Well, what were your initial thoughts?
Along with Spencer, I think the East is extremely weak. I mean, considering we have Michigan, who struggled down the stretch, losing Isaiah Livers, one of their best players. We also have Alabama, who's not performed exceptionally well. They squeaked by LSU in the SEC championship. Quite frankly, I think we could see a surprise Final Four team out of the East, maybe with a Texas or a Florida State. But I think, like Spencer said, the 2 seeds in this bracket are not very good. I think we could see a heavily dominated 1 seed in the Final Four this year.
What about you, Biz?
Yeah, I'd have to agree. I think the 1 seeds, that's what always gets my attention, and I think they got it right. I think the four 1 seeds are definitely the 4 best teams in the tournament. And Spencer's right. The 2 seeds, they're not nearly as talented as Gonzaga, Baylor, Michigan, or Illinois. So.
And you, Jack?
Well, my initial reaction was just happy that there's even a bracket. I wasn't even sure if they were going to be able to do this tournament this year, and it's just great to see 68 teams on the list, and just excited to have some basketball to watch Friday this year, Saturday for my favorite 2 days in sports. But my initial reaction was how good the 8 seeds are. LSU just lost in the conference championship final to Alabama in a very good game. Loyola Chicago is a top 20 team, and they got given an 8 seed. And North Carolina, who's kind of coming on hot at the right time, obviously with a very veteran coach and a few very veteran players. Definitely the 8 seeds. The 1 seeds did not get an easy one this year.
You mentioned that, Jack, and I want to get right into that right now. You talk about these 1 seeds and how they have to in the second round. As long as they beat the 16 seeds, they'll meet either the 8 or 9 seeds. So, Jack, starting with you on this one, which 1 seed do you think is in the most trouble in their bracket?
I'd have to go with the Michigan Wolverines. St. Bonaventure has a very good team. Kyle Lofton and Dominic Welch are veteran guards that maybe not have a March Madness experience, but they just came off their conference championship win, and they're ready to roll. And if they don't beat LSU's got a very talented team. That Thomas, the guard, averages 22 a game just as a freshman, but they are healthy and ready to go, and they probably have a lot more confidence than Michigan. It's rare that the 1 seeds have to play an 8 or a 9 seed that went further in their conference tournament than the 1 seed did. So I really think they're a lot more confident than Michigan right now, especially the absence of the senior leader, Livers.
Biz, what do you think?
Yeah, I'd have to agree. I think Michigan is definitely the first team to go out of all the ones, but as for the toughest road, I would definitely say Gonzaga. In my bracket, I have them going up against Virginia and Jay Huff. I think he's going to be a challenge. And then David McCormick and Kansas Jayhawks is their next game on my bracket. So, 2 bigs put a lot of pressure on Drew Timme. It's going to be a battle down low, and I look forward to seeing it.
Ben, what do you think?
Yeah, I'd have to agree with both of these. I think Michigan's in trouble down the stretch. Didn't perform too well. Lost Isaiah Livers, who's arguably maybe their best player besides Hunter Dickinson. I think their 8 seed matchup against LSU could be a tough matchup, and I also think that Florida State's length and depth could cause some trouble for them in the Sweet 16. So I definitely think Michigan is in trouble and by far the most vulnerable of the one seeds.
And Spencer?
Yeah, I think that's a good point, Ben. They're definitely the most vulnerable. I would have to say it's probably the West region for me, just because there's a lot of tests for Gonzaga. You know, it's the same narrative that we hear every year. Gonzaga's undefeated. They come into the tournament, but they didn't play anyone. This year's a little bit different because they have played some ranked teams. But, I mean, Biz, you kind of touched on it. Virginia, I mean, who's betting against Virginia in March? Because I know that I'm not going to be. You know, Kansas under Bill Self, they're a perennial contender. You look at some of the sleeper teams too. You know, Oklahoma knocked off 4 top 25 teams in the month of January alone. They don't have the same swagger that they once did, but I think Gonzaga, you know, they're a pretty popular pick to get to the Final Four, but I think that they are going to face a lot of challenges in order to get there.
For me, real quick, I'm actually going to take Illinois in this one because you look at the teams they'll have to play. If they win their first matchup, they got to go up against either Loyola Chicago or Georgia Tech. That's not going to be an easy matchup for them. They make it to the next round. You got either Tennessee, possibly either Oklahoma State. None of those games are easy wins for this Illinois team. While they're very good with the Sumo and Coburn, that is going to be a tough region to get out of if you're the number 1 seed in Illinois. So moving on to this next one, I want to talk about some teams like Loyola Chicago who are outside the Power 5 conferences. Obviously, Gonzaga is in the Western Conference. Let's stay away from Gonzaga if it's all right with you boys. Who is the most dangerous non-Power 5 school, in your guys' opinion, in this entire bracket? I want to start with you, Spencer.
Nick, you just mentioned them. Loyola Chicago is going to go on another run. I mean, all right, first of all, we all know Sister Jean. She's 101. She hasn't seen the tournament. She got robbed of a tournament last year. She is going to carry this team. Obviously, I'm kidding. Cameron Krutwig, though, is going to carry this team. He averages 15 points, 7 rebounds, 3 assists. And people seem to forget that Loyola Chicago came at the end of the year ranked number 17. And the tournament committee gave them an 8 seed. Is anyone else as confused as I am? Because they're in the top 10 in the net rankings. They're ranked in the top 25. This is not your grandma's Loyola Chicago team, Nick and my boys right here. I think they're going to go on a deep run. I don't know, though.
Ben, what about you?
Yeah, I really hate to say this as a Syracuse fan, but I think we're in for a tough matchup against San Diego State. I think ultimately they might have been the most unfortunate team last year. Obviously would have been a 1 seed, maybe along with Dayton. They also got a little bit gypped out of a tournament, but I think they're going to come ready to play in March. I think they could go on a bit of a run. I think West Virginia is a bit of overseeded at the 3 line. I think maybe they should have been swapped with Oklahoma State after losing to them twice in the season. So I think Syracuse could see an early round exit. I think San Diego State could potentially go on a run with Matt Mitchell, and I think they could make a run to the Sweet 16.
Biz, what are you thinking?
Yeah, I mean, non-Power 5 conference, West Coast definitely, like you said, Gonzaga. I don't see them losing. I mean, they have a ton of talent, ton of NBA draft prospects, but yeah, for Loyola Chicago, I don't know how I feel about them round 1. They're playing Georgia Tech right away. Georgia Tech, I thought they were kind of disrespected coming in at the 9 seed after winning the ACC championship. I mean, the Clemson, UNC, and Virginia all have better seeds than them, and I think they're a lot better than what people are pointing them out to be. So,
Tobin, finish us off.
No one mentioned the highest ranked team in the tournament that's non-Power 5, the Houston Cougars. They're second in the country in points per game given up at 57.9. They have what I like to call bucket getter with Quentin Grimes, a Houston native and former Kansas player who's really come alive at Houston. I expect them to go on a little bit of a run. I don't think Clemson or Rutgers will give them much of a worry. You guys both touched on how West Virginia is not a huge deal at the 3 seed. I think they're kind of a smooth run to the Elite 8 potentially, and that they could be the farthest for non-Power 5.
Yeah, I agree with all those picks. I really like all those picks you guys have. For me, I'm going back home, and I'm not talking about Hartford against Baylor. That's going to be embarrassing to watch. But I'm talking about the UConn Huskies. I think they're a very talented team at a 7 seed. They came into the tournament strong. James Bouknight is an easy NBA player, possible first-round pick. He averages 19 points per game. Great shooter, great 3-level scorer. UConn could seriously make some noise in that bottom left part of the bracket. So let's get to some upsets now. That's what we all wait for when we're watching March Madness. We want those small teams to beat those huge teams, just make some big noise and make a long run in the tournament. So starting off with you, Jack, which double-digit seed do you think can make the Sweet 16?
Maybe not the Sweet 16, but I do really like Colgate beating Arkansas. That this Colgate roster has experience. Tucker Richardson, Jordan Burns all played over 25 minutes in 2019 in a 7-point loss to Tennessee. I think Colgate's a much better team than the team they played against Tennessee. And I think Arkansas is not quite as good as the Grant Williams, Admiral Schofield Tennessee team. Arkansas shoots 33% from three. Colgate shoots 40. Colgate has 13 straight wins coming in. I didn't see much of Arkansas in the SEC tournament. I don't know if they got upset or something, but they didn't make it too far. Colgate second in the country in points per game at 86.4. Jack Ferguson, their shooting guard, 50.7% from three. That's crazy good. I think this is going to be a high-scoring battle. And they have a good sophomore rebounder named Keegan Records. Jordan Burns, player of the year in the conference. I'll talk about more of him later, but I do really think Colgate's going to knock off Arkansas.
Now, before I get to you, Biz, Jack, do you agree with the net rankings having Colgate at 8 in the country?
14-1 speaks for itself. 12 of those wins are by 9 or more points. Do I think they're a top 10 team? No. But at some point, if you win pretty much every game, there's not much more they can really do. This is usually more of a discussion in college football playoffs. But I really like this Colgate team led by their senior captain, Jordan Burns.
Okay.
If I jump in here quick, I think we fail to forget that they only played 4 teams all season long because of the Patriot League regional games. So only playing 4 teams, and one of them is Holy Cross, who's very bad at basketball. I can see how they're maybe a top 50 team in the net rankings, but top 10 is just absolutely ridiculous.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll have to see in the tournament if they can upset Arkansas. All right, Biz, who's your double-digit seed to make the Sweet 16?
Yeah, I only have one. I only have one double-digit seed making the Sweet 16. And Nick, I think we talked about this. I think we agree. Virginia Tech, they're sneaky. They're very well balanced. 4 out of their 5 starters averaged almost double-digit points per game. So, they're led by Keve Aluma. They're a good team. I think they're going to be a lot of fun to watch. I think they can make a run.
Any ACC team can make a deep run into the tournament, as we've seen in previous years. Ben, who's your team?
Along with Jack, I don't know if this team will make the Sweet 16, but I have Winthrop knocking off Villanova. I think Villanova down the stretch has performed very poorly, obviously losing to Georgetown in the Big East tournament. They lost their senior leader, Colin Gillespie. And I think this is a name to watch is Chandler Vaudrin. He averages only 12 points a game, but also does it all with 7 rebounds and 7 assists. I think Winthrop could knock off Nova in the first round and potentially put up a fight against Purdue in the second round. So I think Winthrop is the team to watch here.
And Spencer?
Yeah, I am reaping the benefits of going last. I also had Winthrop, but I will say 2 teams that I'm keeping my eye out on. The first one, if Georgetown can win that first 12-5 matchup, I think they can get into the Sweet 16 because we've seen this team get hot. That's how they're here. This team got hot. Now they're in March Madness. You got to keep up the flames. And guys, I know, you might make fun of me for this. I don't know when this episode's airing. It might not be such a good look, but watch out for the Grand Canyon Antelopes over the Iowa Hawkeyes. I got to tell you, have you heard of Asbjorn Midtgaard? He is a 7-foot, 270, 14-point, and 10 rebounds, rather. That's his average. So if you're saying someone can't hang and bang with Luka Garza, you're wrong because my boy Asbjorn Midtgaard is going down in the trenches this weekend, and we're going to get some Grand Canyon Antelopes basketball.
Now, Spencer, if you're going with Grand Canyon, you've got to be feeling a little good about Alpine Christian, right?
I don't know. I think Texas is a little bit of a fraud, but we can talk about that in a little bit.
All right. I'll stay away from Eastern Washington in this part.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little more upsets. Now, we look at these top 4 seeds, and they're obviously some of the best teams in the entire country. They wouldn't be ranked in the top 4 in their respective region if they weren't. But what team do you think is in the most trouble in the first weekend? And which upset do you think you're the most confident with in the first round? Spencer, let's start with you on this one.
Well, Nick, this is probably the hardest bracket I've ever filled out. So I'm going to spin this question a little bit just because I don't have an answer right now. But I think an upset pick that is very popular that is not going to happen is Ohio will not beat Virginia. I don't see it happening. I understand that, Virginia is kind of banged up. They have COVID issues. They're not practicing until Friday. But I just really don't see it happening. I know there's a lot of hype around Ohio, but like I said, betting against Virginia in March, when did it work? When they lost to a 16 seed, that small thing that happened a few years ago. I just think that there's so many people on this upset that you kind of got to take a step back and look at, the reality of it. And I just don't see Virginia losing this game.
Yeah, I mean, Ohio has the quote-unquote LaMelo of college basketball in Jason Preston. And if you tell me that, I like LaMelo Ball. So, I mean, I'll take that any day. Now, Ben, what about you? Who's your big upset for the first round?
Yes, there's something about those 12-5 matchups. I mean, I'm looking in the West. I'm looking at UCSB against Creighton. I mean, Creighton's performed poorly down the stretch. I mean, they've got a lot going on with the comments made by McDermott, their head coach, and haven't played well since he was suspended. And then they got absolutely obliterated in the tournament final against Georgetown. So I think UCSB is the team to watch. And in terms of a high seed in trouble, I think we could see a potentially early exit for Houston. I know you guys seem to be kind of in love with them, but I think Rutgers is a little bit is a tough team to watch. I mean, it's a tough team to judge. They've performed so well against some teams and absolutely horrendously against others. But I think Rutgers with their big Johnson and Ron Harper Jr., I think they've got a couple guys that could hang and bang with Houston. And I think they have a chance at knocking off the Cougars in the second round.
Biz, let's go with you.
Yeah, I definitely agree with Ben on both of his picks. Creighton, I think they have a complicated locker room right now. 6 years ago, Doug McDermott led them through the tournament. This year, his dad could be the reason their first round exit. However, with Houston, I'm sorry, Jack, I honestly think they're in trouble before they even get to the Rutgers. They play Cleveland State, another good team from Ohio, a weird team. Ohio beat them, went on a 40-point run to beat them in the beginning of the season. The next game, they lost by 6 to Ohio State. They're a very weird team, and I think anything can happen in that matchup.
But before I get to you, Jack, I want to ask you all real quick. Who is the one player who played in the NBA that we know that went to Cleveland State? Do you know who it is? On top of your head.
Norris Cole.
Thank you, man.
Horizon League. I love it.
Yes.
I would know that. All right, Jack, who's your big upset?
Well, I had mentioned Arkansas losing to Colgate earlier. Just to add another fact to that, not one player on Arkansas's roster has ever played in a March Madness game. And I do think they're kind of a fake three. But I'm also on that trendy UCSB upset. That's very trendy, but Creighton just looked so bad the other day, and the Gauchos are 18-1 in their last 19 games. I don't really see them getting eliminated in the first round. They're potentially a Sweet 16 team as a 12 seed as well.
When I look at some of the teams that possibly could get eliminated early, the team that comes to mind is Oklahoma State. And yes, they've got the top player in the country, no doubt about that. But you're going against a team in Liberty that, okay, it's Liberty, but they've won 12 in a row. They are hot as I don't know. Someone give me a metaphor real quick. Hot as a what? I'm trying to
Frying pan. It's gotta be.
Hot as a frying pan. Hot as a frying pan. Those Liberty Flames. They're flaming right now. There we go.
Oh,
they move on to the next round. You either got Tennessee, which is a very good team when they can shoot well. They're not the greatest defensive team, but they are good when they can shoot. Or Oregon State, who was projected to finish dead last in the Pac-12, but instead, as a 5 seed, won the Pac-12 title game. Oklahoma State's got a lot to move around. If they can get past that, I think they'll be all right. But they're going to have a lot of trouble in this first weekend if they want to keep playing when next weekend comes around in the Sweet 16. So that's a lot of fun upsets. Obviously, upsets is the best part of March Madness, but we all have our memories too. Everyone's had their specific best memory as to going to a game, watching a game on TV, cheering for a specific player. We all have those moments. So starting with you, Jack Tobin, what is your favorite March Madness memory that you can honestly remember?
Well, it's probably my favorite basketball memory too. Duke winning in 2015. I followed the recruiting process for that entire roster. I just fell in love with Tyus Jones, Jahlil Okafor. Grayson Allen didn't get many minutes, but that national championship, he went off and they beat that really talented Wisconsin team. And another favorite moment of mine is Middle Tennessee beating Michigan State. I got back from school on Friday at Ben Poon's house, and we were just jumping up and down, rooting for Giddy Potts and Reggie Upshaw to try to take down a team that was in the Final Four the year before. It probably busted my bracket, but we just got so into it. It was just a great time rooting for that 15 seed.
What about you, Biz?
Yeah, I mean, this is the best time of the year. So many memories. All these Duke fans drive me crazy because, I mean, Syracuse Syracuse is made for this tournament, 2016, when they made it to the Final Four as a 10 seed, upset number 1 Virginia, had guys like Tyler Lydon, Frank Howard. I mean, that was an exciting team. Hoping they do something similar this year.
Now, Malachi Richardson was one of my favorite guys on that team. Too bad. I think he went top 10. Do you go top 10, Biz, in the NBA draft? I think so.
I know he played for their Boeheim's Army's team.
Yeah.
I don't think he was top 10. He might have been first round.
Yeah, he lasted 2 years, not even in the NBA. I don't know what happened to that guy, but he was, that entire team was fun. That was honestly my memory, but I mean, hopefully they can pull something off like that. Ben, what's your favorite March Madness memory?
Yeah, I'm gonna have to go along with Jack. I mean, I've been a Duke fan since I was born there, and I remember I went to the 2015 Final Four with my dad and my brother, and it was just absolutely an unbelievable experience in Indianapolis. And something about Indianapolis. So I wish Duke had made it this year because I think they could have gone on a run. Their last couple of national championships that they've won have happened in Indianapolis. But just being at the Final Four and watching, as you said, Tyus and Justice Winslow and Jahlil Okafor along with Grayson. And I know everyone pretty much hates him besides Duke fans, but that team was something special. And I'm really hoping for something like that to come in the future as well. So I'd have to say the 2015 national championship game against Wisconsin.
Now, Ben, would you compare Grayson Allen to Matthew Hurt on those?
No. I think Matthew Hurt gets a poor reputation just because it's something about the white guys on Duke. But I think Matthew Hurt has never had any of those antics. I just think he's a good basketball player. I don't know how he's going to pan out in the NBA with his speed. He's not too quick, but I think he's done well in college, and I'm hoping he comes back for one more season. But it's looking likely that he's heading to the draft.
His jump shot's a little horrendous looking too. No offense.
It is. Hey, if it goes in the basket, it works.
If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Spencer, what's your favorite March Madness memory?
Sorry to burst your bubble, Duke fans, but it's got to be Kansas's win versus Duke just a few years ago. March Malik, he was unbelievable. If you haven't seen the shot, look up Grayson Allen versus Kansas shot. I mean, that was down to the last few seconds. He comes down the court, does a little spin move, thought he gets fouled, tries to bank it off. It rolls around. My heart was just on the floor. The ball comes out. Sviatoslav Mikhailuk hits the three, the best shot in Kansas history, other than the Mario Chalmers. Obviously, that shot is unbelievable. I was a little too young at that point, but that's got to be it. I felt plenty of heartbreak and just that just felt really good. Sorry, everyone.
That was tough. So, sir.
Spencer, I'm shedding a tear now. You got me crying a little bit. I'm gonna cry a bit later. Some of these players that make these memories, they're some of the top players in the country, no doubt about that. So now we're gonna rank our top players in March Madness for this upcoming year. There's plenty of talent on all these teams, but we're only picking 3 on each position. Every single person here, our starting 5, they've got one position. They pick their top 3 players at that position on a team in March Madness. So Spencer, I am going to start with you on this one. Who are the top shooting guards in March Madness?
All right. So after some long and hard research of gluing my eyes to the TV for the last 3 months, this is the list that I've come up with. My number 1 shooting guard, and guards in college are a little wishy-washy because
scoring guard. We're just kind of like to get some buckets,
We're going to pretend. My number 1 shooting guard rather, is Davion Mitchell from Baylor. He's projected to go late in the first round of the NBA draft this year. I think after a really good tournament, he's going to rise up boards. He actually is very similar to Donovan Mitchell, another number 45. Very interesting. Davion Mitchell averages 14 points a game, 3 rebounds, 5 assists. I just think he's an all-around player. He's a junior. He really just commands the floor, and that Baylor team is really dangerous. We'll get into it towards the end of the episode, but I think he is one of the anchors on that offense. Coming in at number 2, this one hurts me to say very much, but Quentin Grimes is my number 2 shooting guard. I mean, the guy has come out of his shell. He's a bigger shooting guard. He's 6'5". He's averaging 18 points on the dot, six rebounds on the dot, and 2 assists. He's shooting 41%. I mean, that's a pretty high clip for a guy that was shooting in the mid 20% as a Jayhawk. So it's a little tough to see. But, I wish him the best. Once a Jayhawk, always a Jayhawk. I'm from Connecticut. None of this really makes sense anyway. Thinking outside the box here, I'm going to go with Aaron Wiggins of Maryland. I think he's a really solid player. He's a junior as well. 6'6", 200 pounds, 14 points, 6 rebounds, 3 assists. I think this Maryland team, Nick, you touched on it a little bit. I think they're kind of underrated. They won 16 games this year. The conference was, it wasn't the strongest, and it wasn't as strong as it usually is. But having an anchor like Wiggins in your offense, shooting 43%, I mean, if he gets hot, the Huskies are done. And I think Wiggins can really propel Maryland to a pretty good tournament.
Yeah, Maryland's got off to a slow start this season, but they really began to pick things up as the 2021 year got going. And when you got a shooter like Wiggins, don't leave him open. Ben, you're a big guy. You're the tallest guy in this crew right now. You're our center. So who are your top 3 centers in March Madness this year?
I think the first one's pretty self-explanatory. I mean, Luka Garza. I don't think he's an exceptional NBA talent, but I mean, this man just absolutely dominates basketball. He just can really do it all. He's expanded his jump shot. He's able to get out to the 3-point and knock him down. I think he's an unbelievable college basketball player. Obviously one of the best in Iowa history. I think he could really make his mark in March this season. Struggle with the next couple ones, but I'm gonna go with Kofi Cockburn at number 2 from Illinois. I mean, this man is just an absolute beast. Huge, absolute mammoth of a man. I think any team that doesn't have a big man is going to absolutely struggle with this man. And then finally, this one is a little bit iffy, but I'm going to go with the freshman out of Michigan. I think Hunter Dickinson is going to have to perform well if Michigan wants any chance of potentially making a run in March Madness. He's played well all season. Big Ten freshman of the year, excuse me. I think he could also make his mark in March. But let me just give you one name that don't forget about. Trevion Williams, a big man from Purdue, really, really solid basketball player, demands a double team most of the time he gets in the paint. One thing he needs to work on, free throw shooting. But centers could, in college especially, can easily dominate games. I think those 4 are a couple of names to watch out for.
You forgot Asbjorn Midtgaard, Ben. I don't know if I can forgive you.
I'm sorry about that. I'm sorry.
Ben, we love those honorable mentions. I know Purdue's got that 174 guy. What's his name? Zach Eddies or something?
Yep. He's pretty solid too.
That guy's involved. Biz, who are the top small forwards in this year's March Madness?
I mean, we got to talk about him. Cade Cunningham, number 1 pick in the draft. I'll put some respect on his name. I mean, he's very versatile. He can run the point. He's 6'8", 220. He's athletic. Shoots 45% from the field. He deserves the number 1 pick. He's the best player in the tournament, I think. And then also Corey Kispert from Gonzaga. All right, 6'7" senior. I mean, he's key to that Gonzaga team. His 3-point range is impressive. And, you got Jalen Suggs driving the ball to the paint. I mean, you get Corey Kispert on the wing as a kick out and Drew Tinney down low. I mean, this is a ridiculous team. I think they're going to go very far, and I think he's a huge part of that. And then Chris Duarte from Oregon, also a senior, 6'6", just got great hands, great defender, averages about 2 steals a game. And then I also have an honorable mention, Buddy Boeheim. You got to mention him. I mean, recently he's averaging like 25 points per game these past 5 games. I mean, he's playing unbelievable. If he keeps putting the ball in the hoop, Syracuse can make a run. Those are my top small forwards. I
really like that Chris Duarte pick. Don't forget about the Conference of Champions. Don't forget about him.
Absolutely, Ben. Jack, we got to go some point guards. You got to show my short king some love here on the under 6 foot side. Let's show the short king some love. Jack, who are your top 3 point guards?
I obviously could give you guys Ayo Dosunmu, Jalen Suggs, Jared Butler, but we're taking a different route here. We're going 13 seeds or higher. My first one, the country's leading scorer, Max Abmas, a biomedical chemistry major out of Oral Roberts. Not only does he play basketball, he plays school, averages 24.2 points a game, 90% from the free throw line. He's the 5th sophomore to ever win Summit League Player of the Year. Ohio State better be ready to guard him because he's just going to keep on shooting. Number 2, I've mentioned Colgate. We're going Jordan Burns, the senior. His 1 March Madness game he ever played, hit 8 threes against Tennessee. 32 points. He's ready to rock and do it again. Patriot League Player of the Year, another 89% free throw shooter. absolutely going to give Arkansas trouble. And last, we're going Jason Preston, the junior from Ohio. Guy didn't have any scholarship offers his senior year. His mother passed away while he was in high school, so all he did was just practice basketball to keep his mind off things. Next thing you know, went to a prep school. Ohio gives him an offer. Now he averages 17 points, 7 rebounds, and 7 assists with 53% shooting from the field. He's just ready to roll. He's got an interesting matchup with Virginia. Tony Bennett's a tough coach to play against, especially for a guard. But he's ready, as Nick mentioned earlier, LaMelo of this year's league, of this year's tournament. He's projected to go second round in 2022 after not having any offers his senior year. So he's a hell of a story and a very good player.
Yeah, he's averaging 15, 7, and 7 on the season, which is amazing. I'll be rapid fire with my power forwards, my stretch fours. Obviously, myself, I've never been a power forward before. I don't get to that height, but we can still talk about it a little. Biz, I have one of your guys on my list, Corey Kispert. He is obviously one of the best players in the entire country. First team All-American, 19 points per game, a future NBA player, one of 3 on this Gonzaga team. He is a very solid basketball player. At number 2, I've got Sam Hauser. He can play the 3 or the 4, really. If you let him open, if you let him shoot a couple threes, he knocks that down, you're not winning the game. We saw it against Syracuse, the first matchup. He was 7 for 7 from deep, 21 points. Kid's an absolute stud from behind the arc. And then number 3, I got Herbert Jones, the SEC Player of the Year from Alabama. Doesn't put up those eye-popping numbers, but he does everything on the offensive side, defensive side. He averages 3 steals and blocks per game, which is you like that out of your big man. So those are my top 3 power forwards. Now, real quick, guys, we don't want any explanations here. Give me your Final Four. Give me your championship game. Give me your champion. Jack Tobin, we're starting with you.
Final Four: Texas, Gonzaga, Illinois, Ohio State, and we have Ayo Dosunmu knocking off Corey Kispert and company in the national championship. We're rolling with the Fighting Illini.
Biz, let's hear it.
Very similar, except other than Ohio State, I have Baylor and I have Gonzaga losing. The pressure's on the line. They're not going to go undefeated this year. They're going to lose to Illinois in the championship.
Ben.
Yeah, similar to them. I got Gonzaga, Baylor, Texas, and Illinois. I think it is finally time for Mark Few to win his first national championship as one of the best coaches in the country. I think Gonzaga gets it done and wins it all.
Spencer.
All right, guys. I got the Zags beating BYU. Meeting and beating in the Final Four. On the other side, I got Baylor meeting and beating the Illinois Fighting Illini. And then in the championship game, I have Baylor beating Gonzaga.
You like to hear that. I've got Baylor and Illinois meeting on one side of the Final Four. We've got Iowa and Alabama meeting on the other side. And Baylor beats Iowa in the national championship. They finally get that ring that they have been desperately wanting. Hope everyone enjoyed this March Madness preview on the Nick Zelaya Show. Again, for my lovely analyst, my lovely co-host, my wonderful starting 5, Ben Paglia, Alex Bisignani, Spencer Pierce, and Jack Tobin, I'm Nick Zelaya. Thank you, everyone, for watching. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. We'll see you next time.